Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into the absolute staggering extremes of aviation luxury. We're going to compare the absolute bottom of the barrel. I'm talking about a $1 terrifying lawnmower-sounding flight, all the way up to a $500,000 flying mansion. We're going to unpack the economics, the weird perks, and the honestly surprising contradictions of what actually happens when you throw exponential amounts of money at air travel. Just to immediately wrap our heads around the sheer scale of the journey we're about to take a look at this massive financial gap. On one side, you've got this tiny, nearly invisible sliver. That's a single dollar. And on the other, a massive screen-filling bar representing $500,000 for one single flight. It's kind of hard to comprehend that both of these purchases essentially do the exact same thing, right? They get you from point A to point B. But, as you'll see, the method of getting there absolutely could not be more different. So, here is our flight manifest for today. 1. The $1 flight. 2. The first-class jump. 3. The $10,000 and $25,000 suites. 4. The $100,000 private jet. 5. The $300,000 blimp detour. And finally, 6. The $500,000 flying mansion. Section 1. The extremes of air travel. The $1 flight. Okay, so for literally a single dollar bill, you secure a seat on what I can really only describe as an incredibly rickety open-air aircraft. And when I say open air, I mean it. The wind is literally whooshing past your face, metal is clanking, and the aircraft moves so erratically it almost hits the cameraman on takeoff. It's the kind of environment where the pilot explicitly tells you to keep your seatbelt on, and honestly, as a passenger, you're solely focused on basic survival rather than, actually enjoying the flight. This quote perfectly captures just how unrefined this tier is. Passengers literally compare the engine noise to a lawnmower. The whole experience is so nerve-wracking that when one passenger flat out asked the pilot if he was just focused on keeping them alive, the pilot simply responded, "I'm trying." So yeah, for $1, you absolutely get a seat, but you definitely do not get peace of mind. Section 2. Upgrading to first class, the commercial leap. Now let's see what happens when we start throwing some serious zeros onto that price tag. For a $1,000 ticket, you get a decent meal, a free little bag of toiletries, pajamas, and a seat that reclines into a bed. Sounds great, right? Well, passengers actually noted it feels a bit isolating, almost like a coffin, while simultaneously offering zero real privacy because people are just constantly walking right past you in the aisle. But jump to the $10,000 ticket, and the amenities absolutely explode. You get unlimited legroom, a giant touchscreen TV, a personal in-seat drink bar, and access to a private lounge in the back of the plane. But the craziest perk? A full bathroom, featuring a sink, a toilet, and a literal shower at 30,000 feet. Ironically though, despite dropping 10 grand on the seat, you still have to fork over $20 just to connect to the Wi-Fi. Go figure. Now, climbing up to the $25,000 suite introduces this incredibly fascinating contradiction in luxury. On this specific commercial flight, there are literally multiple floors. For this massive price, you gain an incredible amount of space, literally 4 times bigger than the $10,000 flight. You get 2 huge rooms, enough space to comfortably do jumping jacks, tons of TVs, fine dining with caviar service, and an actual real queen-size bed for a proper night's sleep. But here's the catch. The bathroom is actually a massive downgrade. Despite costing 2.5 times more, it's half the size, has no heated floors, and absolutely no shower. It just goes to show that in commercial first class, spending more money sometimes results in some very confusing diminishing returns. In fact, passengers even joked that at this price point, you might be better off just buying a car instead. Section 3. Entering the private tier, $100,000. Leaving the constraints of commercial flights behind entirely, we see a fundamental shift in what's actually being purchased here. At this 6-figure private tier, you are no longer just buying physical space or a better mattress. You are fundamentally buying back your time. Why do the ultra-rich fly private? Well, because there are absolutely no layovers. There are no TSA lines to wait in. You have complete total control over your schedule. You can literally do whatever you want whenever you want. You get the entire plane to yourself, effectively transforming travel from a miserable chore into a completely customizable experience. It is just a totally different paradigm of air travel. The environment features 4 distinct rooms, a lounge area with huge TVs, and private bedrooms that seriously feel like a high-end hotel. It's so comfortable and, frankly, disorienting that passengers were literally sitting backward on couches, eating pizza, and didn't even realize the plane was actively taking off until their stuff started sliding across the table. Section 4. The Novelty Blimp Detour. $300,000. Before we hit the absolute apex of luxury, we have to take a bizarre little detour. You might legitimately be wondering, how on earth does an aircraft that moves so slowly it can literally be pulled along by a rope cost over $250,000 to operate? I mean, it's not exactly practical for getting anywhere fast, right? So where does the value actually come from?
Well, the economics here are driven entirely by aerial advertising. The massive exterior of the blimp acts like a giant flying billboard. In this specific case from our source material, the flight was heavily subsidized by a corporate sponsorship from ZipRecruiter. And what did they choose to put on the side of this massive blimp? A giant inside joke saying, "I heart Carl's mom." The true value was realized when they flew this incredibly slow, incredibly expensive billboard directly over the Daytona 500 race, broadcasting the joke to over 150,000 cheering people below. It just perfectly highlights a completely different economic model for aviation, where flights are funded entirely by marketing reach.
Section 5. The $500,000 jet. Finally, we reach the grand finale, the most expensive private plane ticket on the planet, coming in at a staggering $500,000. To truly understand the level of wealth we are dealing with here, look at this number, $2 million. Actually, scratch that. That is not the price of the jet. That is the price of the carpet. Upon boarding this aircraft, passengers are strongly advised by the flight attendants to take off their shoes, simply to protect the $2 million carpeting beneath their feet.
And that brilliantly illustrates the sheer absurdity of the $500,000 experience. By square footage, this aircraft is literally bigger than most standard houses. The amenities are just beyond belief. We are talking about multiple extravagant bedrooms equipped with multiple showers and actual gold-plated sinks. There is a dedicated theater room, a living room with a couch larger than what most people have in their homes, a 12-person lounge, and secret areas designated just for the crew. And if you thought you'd seen everything, they even provide onboard massages while you fly. You can call flight attendants directly to your bedroom. It is a flying mansion in every single sense of the word.
At this insane price point, you are paying for absolute, unquestioned control. The highest quality food is served anytime you want, anywhere on the plane. But the customization goes even further than that. The host actually took the opportunity to inspect the snacks on board, found standard gas station chocolate, and had the flight attendant literally toss it out in favor of his own premium Feastables brand. When you pay this much, every single detail of the flight is entirely up to you. But here's a really satisfying resolution to this study in extreme wealth. This ultimate luxury wasn't just hoarded away. The host invited a bunch of random subscribers aboard this unprecedented flight. None of them had ever flown on a private jet before, let alone the most expensive one on the entire planet. And the destination? The flight culminated in an all-expenses-paid 2-day trip to Disney World for everyone on board, proving that, hey, maybe the best part of reaching the absolute pinnacle of luxury is getting to share it. Okay, let's pull all of this together and synthesize what we've explored today. At that $1 tier, the primary perk is obviously the cost, right? But the massive drawback is the terrifying lawnmower engine reality of simply trying to survive the trip. In the commercial upgrades, from $1,000 up to $25,000, you're basically buying physical comfort. You get beds, caviar, even showers. But there's a distinct lack of ultimate privacy, and you hit these weird diminishing returns, like literally losing your shower when you pay more. But crossing that $100,000 threshold into private aviation fundamentally changes the game. You stop buying a seat and you start buying massive space and total schedule control. The only real drawback? The absolutely astronomical financial cost. Which leaves us with one final, really interesting thought to consider. As we've seen this crazy exponential climb from one single dollar up to $500,000, at what exact price point does luxury stop being about the flight itself? At what point does the money stop buying you better caviar or gold-plated sinks or a bigger TV and start simply buying you back your own freedom and your own time? It's a fascinating look at the economics of the sky, and honestly, I hope it changes the way you look at your very next boarding pass.